Good afternoon. All right, we're going to have a very important conversation about money. And money normally gets everyone's attention. And our special guest today is a financial and mental health expert. And so we're quite happy to have her on the Inkwell stage. How are you today?
I'm amazing, thank you. Cheers, everyone. Thank you for those of you who stayed. My name is Dr. Jatali Bellanton, AKA Dr. J. And I am I'm a neuropsychologist who focuses on mental and financial health.
So the combination of the two is very important.
Yes.
Most people don't understand emotional spending, lack of security around spending. Talk to me a little bit about how you manage money with your mind in the process.
So I think a lot of us don't realize that the psychology of the money is that a lot of us go through, or we have family members, if not ourselves, who go through issues where we have survivor's guilt. In fact, by a show of hands, how many of us understand the importance of having positive financial affirmations in your life? Can you raise your hand if you know about positive financial affirmations? Can we do an activation together real quick? I'm gonna use some of my minutes to talk about that. All right, we're gonna all stand up. Can we stand up? All right, brilliant. I'm gonna have you guys repeat after me. We're gonna do a financial affirmation together, okay? Every class we do in the school systems, over 400 schools around the US, we start every workshop like this. I'm gonna say it and then I'm gonna point to you. So I am one idea away from being a millionaire. And if you're a millionaire, feel free to say billionaire, okay? So we're gonna do this together, one shot. 3, 2, 1. I am one idea away from being a billionaire. All right, love it. So you guys may see, you look lovely, by the way. And so the first half of, to me, being successful financially is actually affirming positive energy into yourself. And then last but not least, once again, the reminder of even how you invest, not being an emotional investor, right? So if you're investing in the stock market, crypto, knowing to take your wins, bank profits along the way, all of these things are the mental and financial intersections of being in the world.
So tell me the difference between financial literacy and financial empowerment. We may have a lot of people here who know finance and yet can't seem to get their own finances together. How might they get past some of those blockages?
So, I mean, it's interesting. We were backstage and we were talking, and I said, I don't like to say financial literacy as much as I like to say financial empowerment, because some of us might have gone to school and had the basic budget, earn, and save conversation, and some of us might understand the fundamentals of the money, but then we might still make certain faux pas, which doesn't mean that you're not financially literate. It just means that sometimes we have a hurdle to get over. And so financial empowerment to me means going into a space where we teach somebody, hey, you know what? The S&P 500 averages 6 to 8% a year, right? How many people know that right now, if you had your money in the S&P 500, you might have averaged 6% per year? Raise your hand. So there weren't that many of us who knew that, right? Financial empowerment is teaching someone that information. Also teaching them that your average bank account only gives you 0.03 to 0.09% profit on your money. So if you have your money in a regular savings account, and it's not like in a credit union that might be giving you 1 to 3% per year, that truly impacts how much money you're making passively. And that's for those of us who are more conservative as investors, right? But if you're a more aggressive investor, you might say, oh, I'm willing to go into the crypto market. I might be willing to invest in options trading and day trade, and the list continues, or invest in real estate and be a little bit more aggressive. But you know, these are all concepts that we can empower each other by realizing that the most amount of millionaires are made through investing in real estate or just investing, period. I don't know a lot of multimillionaires who are successful who only save themselves to wealth. Because with inflation, by the time you're done, that wealth is not even valued at the same.
So tell me, there's someone who may be here who works really well for another company. But inside their mind, their spirit, and their heart, there's an idea. But there's a fear. How do we get psychologically past that fear to make investments in ourselves so that we can become producers and not just consumers?
So the first thing I will tell you is that not everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur. Respectfully, realistically, me personally, when I was a 9-to-5 person, I honestly thought I was always going to be a 9-to-5 person. I love the tap on the shoulder. I liked having a consistent check. And it wasn't until I had motherhood that I realized I wanted to be a hands-on parent, and it shifted me. So I'm West Indian and West African. If you know anything about both cultures, you're not allowed to do one thing only. So when I said I was leaving corporate, everyone in my family is like, oh, and so what's next? And so what are you going to do now? How are you going to continue making money? And I didn't want to dip only into my savings. So for me, entrepreneurship became the chaos that I embraced. Because embracing the uncomfortable for me, which is the first step of becoming an entrepreneur, is embracing the uncomfortable. If you've worked 13 hours, 20 hours for someone else's company, it should be nothing for you to work 20 hours for your own brand, your own company. And I'm walking, living proof that after leaving corporate, I made my first million and I kept it going. And part of that success was putting those 20-hour days, having no moments where I was like, my curls are falling out, I am stressed, I am exhausted. But in the end, I saw all the blossoms of all the seeds that I planted. So there is a rainbow and a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, but you have to be willing to put in the work for yourself the way that you are willing to do it for someone else.
So you mentioned financial survivor's remorse.
Mm-hmm.
I think for people of color, that's a big thing.
Oh, it is.
So can you go a little deeper into the psychology of someone who's struggling to make it? They've got their foot in the door, but they feel the pressure of not over-succeeding because they don't want to leave their current crowd. How do you deal with that?
So I'll give you an example. A lot of us know like the average athlete, right? NFL, NBA players, right? I'll give you an example. One of my clients, young man, he came from literally having $100, not even in a bank account, underneath his bed, and that was his savings. He never even had a bank account, to one day being NFL drafted, and now this young man had signed with a bonus contract of $1.3 million. And so he came from having $100 to his name to becoming a millionaire overnight, not even having a bank account, not knowing how to read a ledger. The list continues. And in that situation, of course, obviously, he makes this $1 million, forgetting Uncle Sam, because in America, you have to pay taxes on this money. So depending who your tax person is, it might be 20 to 30% of the money that you're making, right? So you're not really at $1 million. Now you're like at 700,000 before you know it. And then he had family members who are now, well, you're a millionaire now. Can I get a car? Can I get a house? You know, he had this cousin, that family member, that friend from the block that he went to high school with. Everyone wanted a handout. And the thing I will say is that, one, when you take on all these debts and these responsibilities, tomorrow you can lose that contract. God, your life is not in your hand, it's in a higher purpose's hand. Rather you believe in God or whoever you believe in, universal law, tomorrow you could twist your ankle and lose a contract. And that money is no longer yours, right? Tomorrow, that family that you gave that mortgage to might not be able to afford the mortgage. And guess what? It's in your name potentially, and now you have a debt. You're filing bankruptcy and you're hitting back to zero. And it might be even worse for you. So I always tell people who are coming into this world, you know, they always say, pour from a glass, right? And this glass is usually half full for many people. Pour from a full glass that is overflowing. Give from your overflow. It's okay to make sure your glass is fully full before you pour to anyone else. And so when I think about these things, when you have survivor's remorse or survivor's guilt, you have to think about the fact that the more you succeed, the more you financially have, the more success you have, the more people you will actually be able to help. But you have to have a method to your madness. Do you have a foundation? Can you write things off? Can you bring in other people now who respect you as a thought leader, as an athlete, as a entrepreneur whose clothing line is doing amazing, as a fashion guru? Can you bring in other people to now support your community? Because that's where the real money comes in. Because the wealthy, the rich, the billionaires, they don't use their money for everything. They know the importance of collaborative work and cooperative investing.
So, two things come out of that. First, how do we begin to think from my wealth to generational wealth? What are the hallmarks of that? I heard you mention a child, changed your financial priorities. How do we begin to think about generational wealth if we're first generation success? What's that look like?
The first thing I would say is investing. If you want generational wealth, you have to invest and you have to diversify your portfolio. So I notice a lot of people, like I'm making new friends on this trip, and one of them, she was talking to me and she's like, oh, you know, I have 20 real estate properties and she wants to scale bigger. And I was explaining, she was like, why did you pick 7 countries to invest in your real estate portfolio versus 1 country? And I was like, one, if all my real estate is in America, if the economy is going down, if there's any issues, then guess what happens? Now all my money is in one market, so all of my money goes down. Same with the stock market. If you're investing in a tech space, if you take 100% of your money and put it only in tech, once a year, the tech market in America goes down around October, September. So if you're in the financial markets, you understand that. So now if it goes down by 20%, 30%, guess what happens to you? All of your money just went down by 20% because you didn't diversify. So diversification is one of the most important things to do when building generational wealth. Having a foundation, having a living trust or a real estate trust. If you own real estate, even if it's your property that you live in, if you're going to pass that on to your family, there's a way to legally tax mitigate so that your family, your children, your children's children don't have to pay the taxes on it. If you're going to buy art, for instance, you can buy art through trust and real estate, etc., and you can invest in art and pass that art on down to your children. Now, let's say you bought it at $10,000 and it went up to $100,000. You're now going to be able to take that $90,000 profit and your child doesn't have to pay taxes on it if you properly form your business, your corporation, your company. And also think about yourself as legacy. When we look at Versace and these families, hundreds of years of the Gucci family, hundreds of years of Versace, and guess what? When you look at Rolex and some of these major establishments, they're foundations. And as foundations, there's certain taxes that they're not paying legally because of how they structure their businesses and their brands. So I want you to start thinking of your family and yourself as a brand and structuring yourself for a win.
Well, I think it's important. You mentioned brands. Yeah, that's beautiful. Generational wealth. So we're in Cannes. All the brand advertisers are here. We're off a shopping road that could take every dollar you have. Tell me about sacrifice. When do I have the ability to spend in other people's brand? Or when should I do Target? Do places that I'm not going to spend as much? Some call it sacrifice. How do we do that?
So I don't know if you all know the budget rule 50-30-20. Have you all heard of it? The concept is 50% goes to your necessities, 30% goes towards your wants, like shopping, etc., and 20% goes towards your needs, like investing. For me, I was 30% went towards my necessities, like the mortgage or rent, whatever I had, and my investments went to, for me, that was for the 50%. So I was a go hard because I knew that if I did it quicker, I could get to where I wanted to go and have the luxury I wanted to go and get up and travel first class or not when I wanted to on my time frame. And like my son is homeschooled and there's certain luxuries that comes with that. Being able to get up and go to Ghana for 6 months and finish a build because my contractor has issues. So I always say sacrifice now so long term you can get the luxury and the life that you want to have. And so I'm very big on sacrificing right now, immediately. You want a big time goal? It could take you 5 years or it could take you 2 years. I'll do the 2-year route so I can enjoy the 3 years after that. And so sacrifice is major.
Perfect. Wonderful insight. How can we reach you if we want to learn from you?
If you're on Instagram, at Jatali Bellanton, so JATALI BELLANTON, Jatali Bellanton, or Dr. J, look me up. And if you're watching, we have Our America in the Black. I'm a finance expert on there where I drop a lot of information, actionable and executionable financial tips for different various levels of your financial acumen.
Inkwell, let's give it up for Dr. J.
Thank you. And thank you for having me, Adrian.